And now, coming up to the stage, we've got Dr. Becky Hufft. Drum roll. First of all, I'm so excited to meet you. You are awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And you guys are in for a real awesome treat.
Okay, should happen. Look at that. Okay. And I'm not using the microphones. I'm going to use this one because I move way too much and I have props and show and tell. So I'm Becky Hufft. I am the Associate Director of Climate Resilience here at the Botanic Gardens. And my colleague Hannah asked me to present today. And then I was reflecting on Camino and trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about today. And I went down lots of different paths. And then two things came together for me to decide what I was going to talk to you about today. First, Brandy picked this photo off of my website. So that was step one. But Brandy did not know how important that photo is to me, which is probably why I have it on my website. First of all, I look really happy, so that's good. Two, I'm holding a beaver skeleton, and I went back and looked, and this photo was taken almost exactly next week 10 years ago when I found this beaver on our creek project that I've been working on for just a little over a decade now. And then I had a colleague who I was in my office a couple weeks ago, and I was sharing that I had all these different ideas. I'm like, oh, how am I gonna interpret Camino? What am I gonna talk about? And he was like, well, I mean, you have been working on a creek for the past decade. A creek is a path. It's like, oh, that's smart. So this is the journey we're gonna go on today. I am going to share a project, a little bit, that I've been working on for the past decade. But more importantly, I'm gonna share what I think it teaches us about our lives and what lessons we can learn from this project. So both these pictures are taken at our Chatfield Farms site. If you haven't been there, we manage a 700-acre farm just about a half-hour south of here. And on this property, we are fortunate to steward 1.5 miles of Deer Creek. And so that's the story and the path that we're going to talk about today. Okay, so first, though, I'd like to introduce my partners on this project. So here with us today, we have Yorick. If you can symbolize, I think you get it, right? Yorick. Okay. So this is Yorick. The rest of him rests here, so don't worry. He's not too far apart from the rest of his body. But I found Yorick at our creek restoration project, and he lived and died at our site. And he and his family, right, are really the reason that all of this works. And we're going to talk a bit about him and his family today. And so he's one of my support animals that I have here with me today. And it's a reminder of how special it is, right, to be able to actually show people. He is mounted like this because we use him. He was out in the science pyramid for a while as one of our educational pieces. He lives in our lab now, just right next on the other side of this wall. And to me, he's a really good reminder and inspiration of why we do the work that we do, right? We support Yorick here, poor Yorick, and his family. So he's really the mover and shaker, I will say, right? One of them, or was, on our site. So he is here as a reminder of that today. But first I want to talk about the different types of how we can look at streams and how we see them, right? This is what a lot of our waterways look like in the world, how humans manipulate water to manage how much water there is, how the water flows, to get water to our farms, to our ranches, for our industrial needs, for recreation. But if you contrast that with what a healthy ecosystem can look like, even if you don't know all the nuances of what sediment, the nutrients in the soil, the macroinvertebrates, the trees, the aquatic organisms, the animals that live here, I think if you look at this and you had to say, where am I going to go take a hike? Where am I going to go sit and reflect or have lunch? Like, you're going to want to be here, right? This is a healthier place to be. And so the journey that I want us to go on today is how do we get from that left image to this right image, right? How do we go from unhealthy to healthy? And what we have learned in the past several decades is that it's not or, right? You can have a healthy ecosystem on the right and provide functional ecosystem services for human needs as well. And so that's the journey that I want us to go on today. And we're going to use this image as our map, our roadmap for the day. I've actually been using this in my scientific talks, this image, for many years now. Ben Goldfarb made this as part of his a science article on the utility of beavers in restoring our ecosystems, especially across the western United States. And so I've been using this in my science talks. But it had not occurred to me until preparing for this talk for today how relevant it was for our lives as well. So I would like to focus on these different areas. So over on the left, right, we can think about a stream that has been channelized. The watershed and the floodplain has been disconnected. There's very little riparian area. It's not really great for the organisms that are supported in that habitat. It's not great for flooding. It's not great for sediment going down the stream. But how can we get over here to the right? And I will say, he called this the complex haven. And I just think that is beautiful, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about. It's messy, it's chaotic, but it's beautiful, and it supports a lot of diversity and a lot of life. And I want to talk about how we get from that left area where you don't want to hang out, right? Maybe we all get stuck in areas like that sometimes in our life, but how do we get out of it and get over to this more desirable complex haven? So along the way, we're going to learn about this restoration project that we're doing, and then also how I think it relates to our lives. Okay, so we're going to start over on that left side, which he calls adding dams. This is the part where you kind of have to do the work initially. And this is actually a picture from one of our projects a decade ago where we started to do the work. And these are artificial structures to mimic beaver dams that we put into the creek. Okay, so in this area, like as part of your life, right, it's a metaphor for our lives, it's harsh, right? The options seem limited, but there's an opportunity to take chances and try new things. And for me, I really think this is where it also takes imagination, right? So if you think about that first image of trying to get from this area where you're adding dams to that complex haven, you have to have enough imagination to be able to imagine a future that's better, right? And imagine what it could be and how you're going to get there. And I actually think that's a lot of what science is, right? We have the knowledge and the tools that we have today, but we have to be able to imagine where we could be and figure out a path to try out new things to get there. So that's this first phase, and I actually think it's a pretty hard phase, right, to make that first step, to make a change. And then we get into the second phase that he refers to as widening the trench. And so it just takes time, right? You did something, and now you just kind of have to wait and be patient. And I actually think for me, this is the hardest part. And my boss, Jenny, is here. I think you'll agree with that is not my strong suit, right? I would like everything to be done right now. And so sitting and being patient and just waiting to see if things will pay off, right? And that's kind of what this phase is. And I think for me personally, this is the most uncomfortable phase to sit in. And then you get into like a slightly better position where he calls it the beaver's return phase, right? It's hopeful, it's optimistic. I view this phase as, again, this idea of like expanding opportunities, right? You can see things taking shape, but there's still more to do, right? There's still more waiting, and there's still some more work to do around the edges. So you kind of got to keep going and see if you have the capacity to keep having it happen. But then I want to sit more in this area for a bit. Again, I love that he calls it the complex haven because it is, right? It's messy, it's chaotic, but it's also beautiful. This is really the area, I think, where things happen that you didn't anticipate. And I'm going to show you a few different images here of what this looks like in real life, in the stream side. And the biggest thing about it, I don't know if you know in this image, right? There's no main channel anymore, right? There's actually just lots of different paths that get formed in this process. So here's a spot where the main channel was on the left, and after we put these structures in, a new channel formed over on this right side, but then they connected later on downstream. Here's another image, right, where it's not really clear where the creek is. It's just kind of wet and squishy, and right, everywhere you walk is kind of your feet kind of collapse into the soil because it's all really wet. Another example where there's actually 3 different channels up here in the creek. And to me, this is really also saying, right, that there's all these different good paths, right, in this area. It's like we can pick our paths, but I also will say they're constrained, right? On the one hand, right, we have choices, we have free will, we can make choices in our lives, but all of our choices are constrained by the environment that we live in, right? Our communities, our resources, our families, jobs that are available, and so we have to make choices within that, and that's what's happening here too. And part of this is because we did something, right? We chose to take action and we built those structures on the creek. But it was also happening in this larger ecosystem of interactions, and there were other players at hand. And so I actually want to take time now to just talk about who all those players are in the ecosystem that weren't us and how they all interact together, because I think that's also relevant for how the actions that we take can impact our community as well. All right, so we've already talked about Yorick here. So this is an image of one of our current beavers on the site. This was just taken this fall. We do have wildlife cameras throughout the site so we can capture them. I tend to not be on site when they're actually out and active because they come out from dusk till dawn. Beavers are out really doing the hard work. They are working every single day to maintain this watershed and maintain these areas. So they're out at night and they are cutting down trees. They are, this is just gratuitous cuteness. That's all this, there's no scientific reason for this. But I just want to point out that not only did in a couple days they take down this tree, but he also clearly found the camera and just posed. So it's adorable. Okay, and then in addition to taking down trees, they are actively every night maintaining their dams, maintaining their dens, and then making underwater caches of the willows so they can eat all winter. So here he's I don't like that branch there. I'm going to move it around. And so every time that I go walk the creek, it looks different, right? It's a dynamic system. And that ability to be dynamic and to be ever-changing is actually what makes it resilient. And so every time I go, there's a new opening in the canopy because they've taken down another tree. The dams are in different places. They even occasionally move their dens. And maybe every 7 to 10 years, the beaver family will move on to another site. We might have a little bit of a time where there's no beaver and then a new family will move in. And then the new family is I don't know why they have these things here, and they just redecorate, right? They completely come in and they remodel the whole system. They put their den and all the dams in different places. And that also provides this ability to keep changing. And what that does, it creates new channels in the system. It brings up the water table. It connects the floodplain and creates a larger riparian area so more cottonwoods and box elders can grow in these riparian areas. They create an entire ecosystem just by doing what they do, which is to think, I need to cut down that tree, right, and make the dam so that I have a place to live. They're doing it for themselves, but they create an entire ecosystem. And so one of the things, I'm going to show this next video, which is a time-lapse video of an entire year along this stream, one picture for every day. And just to think about, not only are the beavers changing it every day, but there's also these external factors like climate change and seasons and day-to-day temperature changes. So I'm going to watch this for a second. So not only is that really beautiful and just relaxing to watch, but if you actually noticed, it probably was hard to see, that was just 1 year, about a year after we put a structure in. This camera was placed just downstream on the screen there was one of our artificial structures that we had installed. And actually over that whole year, the creek got wider right there. So that widening the trench phase, it actually was picked up in that annual photos. And so it just shows how ever-changing things are. And I would just, I guess, like to acknowledge, right, that things are unpredictable and chaotic, especially right now in our world. And I think that even as scientists, we often think of ourselves and our work as objective, but it's still happening in the context of the society and the social context that we're in right now, right, and how we choose to interpret the work that we're doing. And I think we can learn a lot from the plants and animals that live in these systems because they are ever-changing, and they've had to adapt, right? They've had to be resilient, and they've had to adapt to learn how to find new ways to survive and thrive in these ecosystems. And to me, that's also a lesson, right? That the world is always chaotic and unpredictable. And so even if it's scary right now, that we can continue to find ways to build a community, which I think is so lovely about the space that you all have created here, right? And that you're all here in person to create that community. And next, we're going to go to our second taxidermy support animal that we're going to show today. Is that I also think this project is a good reminder of how our actions can impact others and impact our community. So anyone know what animal this is? Muskrat. This is our friendly muskrat. And after beavers build dams, and that creates a pond, the muskrats move in and they make their den on the ponds created by the dam. And so this little guy, his name is Romeo, and he was a little boy who died too soon. He unfortunately drowned in the pond. He got stuck under some branches right at the entrance to his den. Because what I do is collect dead things. I love Romeo. Romeo, he's small, so he's a juvenile male. This is in fact the photo where I collected him, and then I'm fortunate for both of these specimens that we can go over to the Science Museum, and our colleagues there help prepare them for us. So these both serve as educational and outreach tools for us, and they live in their lab, and we use them for events. And afterwards, he's super soft. If you want to come pet him, he's amazing. Again, to me, these are really special because these aren't just like props that we purchased, right? To me, this helps remind me of how special it is that I get to work and steward this property, right, where these organisms are living and dying, and that we have a responsibility to protect them. And so I am glad that they're able to continue, even after life, to stay with us, to continue educating about this project and the importance of these areas. But I guess I also want the muskrat to be a symbol of our impact, right? Like the beaver doesn't know. Like the beaver's not building dams to make habitat for the muskrat, right? But the beaver is building that habitat for the muskrat. And I like to think about this as kind of who are we impacting, right? So who are you helping to build up, right? Is it a colleague? Is it a student? Is it someone new to your industry that you can mentor? And thinking about, like, you know, how do we bring more people to our table, right? Include more people at the table, or in this case, the pond. How do we include more people at our pond? So this is a pretty direct impact, right? Like people that we know we're engaging with and working with and supporting. But what about times when maybe we aren't aware of all of the people that we're impacting? How many owls do you see in this photo? 4. So there are 4 great horned owls that are in this photo. We have a pair of great horned owls that nest every year on site and have had successful clutches every year. They nest in the trees that can only live in the riparian area that is supported from the riparian area that's created from these beavers, right? So these are kind of downstream a little bit of organisms that are being supported by this ecosystem. And I like to think of this as like a reminder, right, of you might not always realize who's watching you, right, and who's seeing the actions that you're taking, but maybe who's still benefiting from it. And as a good reminder to me, right, of how showing up in every moment with kindness and empathy and appreciating stillness too, right? I mean, they're just kind of like hanging out up there, and they give you like the stink eye, right? Like they watch you, and then they go hunt, right? But I just love that they're there, kind of watching, ever watching, and observing what they're doing, and it's a good reminder to ourselves. Oh, I didn't actually start it. His head moved. There we go. Did you see that? They did move a little bit. All right, and then I also think sometimes out of these projects just come like moments of joy, right, and surprise. So as I mentioned, we have wildlife cameras set up around the property, and sometimes, I would say most of the time, when there's the larger mammals that cross the screen, it's like the blurry tail, right? Like they triggered the camera, but you don't really get them. Our bobcats and mountain lions are like that a lot of the times. But this coyote was hunting, and it was just perfect, right? You see her crouching over here, and then she's like, zoom, jumping. But I also just want to point out, this is a beaver dam. So the coyote is actually hunting on the beaver dam during this time. And again, just like a moment of joy and surprise that we catch in these projects. Okay. And then you're like, oh, we're at a botanic garden. That's weird. We haven't actually heard about any plants at all. So I am at least going to mention one plant in the talk. So here on the left is this striped coral root orchid. It is a rare, relatively rare orchid. And I'd just like to point out, we have been managing and stewarding this property for 50 years. And we have a plant list for the site. And we had even done a floristic inventory relatively recently, like where we've walked the site and tried to document every plant that's on the site. We did not have this species on our list for occurring on our site. And then in 2024, this is Milan Lee, and she was one of our graduate students. We were out doing another nature hike, trying to observe all the things that were flowering that day, kind of just hiking around. It's a pretty fun day to go do that. And because she was paying attention to the small things and she really was being observant, I don't know, she's holding one of the plants here in her hand. So it's this little tiny guy. And this is in the riparian area, right by where the beavers are. She noticed it and she found it. And it was our first observation on this site. And this is such a good reminder that, one, in the science world, how important just being a good natural historian is, right? To slow down and make observations of all the things around you, whether it's at your house in the city or it's out on a hike on a trail somewhere, right? Because you never know what you're going to find in even your normal mundane life that's really amazing that you hadn't noticed before. And I think that's true for science. I think that's true for our own lives. And I think it just takes that time, right, to slow down. And take the time to make observations and appreciate, right, where we are right now. So again, I think this flower has been there the whole time. I think we just never noticed it because it only comes up for a short kind of window each year, and we probably just missed it. And so that's kind of amazing. Okay, so I just want to end on coming back to this image. And I'd just like to also point out that at the end of this image, right, that's not the end, right? All those paths keep going. And they'll probably at some point come back to another crappy spot that you want to get yourself out of, right? It's not always just going to be like, oh, I'm at the complex haven. It's always amazing now. And so, but the coolest thing about this endpoint, right, is that it is messy and it is chaotic. And like, right, and you go out there, like, I don't even know where the stream is right now. It's just kind of mushy and squishy and amazing. But the best part about it, I think, is that this area supports way more life and diversity than that area over there, right? This area has lots of niches where lots of different organisms can find like a place where they can be and live and thrive. And to me, that's the community I also want to have, right? Not only for the habitats that we're creating out in nature, but also in our own lives, right? I want to, if you can create a space, right, where there's more niches, right? Everybody's welcome. And there's a diversity of ways that people can be themselves and be in this space and find a home in that space. And so that's the takeaway I would like you to take from this, is that I hope that we can all find our complex haven. So there we go.
That was so awesome. We have some time for some Q&A. So, okay, here's a question right here.
I guess, yeah.
Great presentation, first of all. Thank you so much for the work you do. You mentioned stewardship a few times, which is my favorite word, I think. I'm curious, how do you define stewardship? And in thinking of how beavers influence their ecosystem, how are we affecting, what is our role as if we were beavers? And how does this relate to your definition of stewardship?
I think that was 2 questions.
That was 3.
3. All right, number 1. What is stewardship? Without number 1, how do I define stewardship?
Yes.
I define stewardship as our moral obligation to make that land better than it was when we got it. I think that could be interpreted in many different ways. I also do drink the Kool-Aid that nature-based solutions can support both these ecosystems and people. Like, people are part of that, and we can support all of our cultural and human needs while also protecting nature. So that's what I think stewardship is. Question number 2, how are we beavers? Is that number 2? I feel like that could go a lot of different directions, but okay. I honestly think different people at different times in their life are all these different organisms, right? I think that humans have an overly engineering role in the world, which is kind of what the beavers do. And maybe much like the beavers, we aren't always aware of how our actions impact others, right? Again, the beavers aren't out there being like, I'm going to do good for the world, right? They're just like, I want to make a home for myself and protect my babies. So I think that's maybe how we're beavers sometimes, is that, and I actually think, right, a lot of times we over-engineer things, right? That first agricultural stream was a solution to a problem. And the problem was we couldn't get water where we wanted it, or we had too much water where we didn't want it. That's why we channelize water, and that was our engineering solution for that. And in most times, that makes things worse, right? It makes it hard for the system to be resilient and to deal with flooding, and to deal with big catastrophic events. So I think maybe that's the up and downside of being a beaver. I think, honestly, probably a lot of us need to sometimes be it's okay to be the muskrat that just kind of moves in. Like, I'm going to take advantage, do good things too of other people's work. And then maybe the owl, right? Where you're like being observant and still, and then swooping in, right? To do what you need to do. So I don't know, I think maybe we're just at different times in our lives, we all fill different niches, right? We all have different roles. Some of us are outgoing and some of us are more introverted, right? And all of those are needed to make a good community. There was a third question.
Well, let me just put this question, more of a technical question. Did the beavers come after you installed those temporary beaver dams?
That would be a really good story, because that's what the image shows. No, the beavers were already there. So the beavers were already in our system, and I encourage you, anywhere you are in the Denver metro area, to look along the Platte or the Cherry Creek. There are beavers in our entire watershed system everywhere we go. They consistently try to build dams right at the Cherry Creek Mall. They consistently try to build dams on the Platte River that floods that path right near the Broncos Stadium. So beavers are everywhere in our system regardless. Our job is to help them feel welcome and to stay, because they do the job a lot cheaper than we can do. So on the 1.5 miles of creek, half the creek is where the beavers are active, because we have an underground seep that keeps water in that system all the time. Beavers have to have running water all year long. The area that we put our artificial dams in runs dry for part of the year, so the beavers aren't active in that area. And they probably won't move into that area unless we can get water there all year. So we did have beavers already, but we put our structures in an area where the beavers were not active. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Can I just plug one thing?
Yes.
Do you know the Eager book?
Yes.
Do you like it?
I do.
Would you recommend it?
I do. There's lots of good beaver reading to be had in the world, both for learning about these ecosystems, but also just being inspired for your life. So Eager is, as an eager beaver, Eager is a good book. And then I don't know how, again, I've been working on this project for a decade, and two of our other colleagues here just turned me on to, is it called Beaver Edit?
Oh, yeah.
On Instagram? I had no idea till last week. If you just need like a hole to go down that's like lovely and beautiful and like, oh, there's goodness in the world, like, which is not always the case on social media, like this whole channel is just amazing. And it's, yeah.
I'll just yell. Did anything surprise you during these 10 years?
So much. So one, I had never done this before. I'm a plant ecologist by training, and I just spent a whole talk talking about water and animals. So that has surprised me. That is now what I talk about. The second thing is, when we put these structures in, it was during the dry part. It was like in February, like right now, 10 years ago. And it was dry when we went and put it in. And then like a week later, unfortunately not happening right now, we had a warm day and the snow melted. And so the creek flooded with water. And I was like, are these structures going to work like they're supposed to and create new channels? And I went out the day that the creek flooded, and it was amazing. Like, it just worked. And I don't think everything happens that way in life, but this did. Like, they were just engineered lovely, and it worked. And the other amazing thing is, we have done nothing to those structures in the past decade until this year. We went out and we just weaved in some branches from the site to reinforce them because they were starting to wash away. And that has been amazing to just see how little maintenance we have to do on them. Because as I mentioned, the beavers maintain their dams daily. So that we've had a year in 2017-ish, 2018, when that beaver family moved out, and we had a year without beavers. Those dams washed away almost instantly, which tells you how much work they're doing every day to maintain those dams and the dens. And the water level in the creek just dropped. So we lost all of our ponds that year, but it's just part of the process. Like, that's just part of this dynamic. And then a new beaver family moved in and changed everything. And so that's been cool to learn about. I also learned the word crepuscular, which just means dusk to dawn. That's a good trivia word, and now you have it too. Crepuscular. Crepuscular. Yes, beavers are crepuscular. So I've learned some new vocabulary words too. Yeah. Which is different than nocturnal. Dawn and dusk is the hardest time for predators to see. Because there are animals that are nocturnal adapted and there are animals that are day adapted, but dawn and dusk is the hardest time. So if you're active at dawn and dusk, then predators have a harder time eating you. Okay.
Crepuscular.
Crepuscular. You didn't know you were going to learn that today. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else have some last questions? Wait, you over there.
What gives you hope on your path?
That's
What
a
gives
good
you hope on your
question.
path?
Okay, well, I'm a little biased because I would say I'm just naturally an optimistic person. So I tend to try to find hope in most things. To me, the hopeful part is that even in this ecosystem, if you think how developed the Front Range is, right? It is like there is cement over most of the channels where these beavers are trying to work, right? And there's artificial cement structures everywhere. And like, they just keep going, right? They're just like, nope, I don't like this. I would like it to look different. I'm gonna put a dam here because this is not how this should be. And like, you remove the dam and they're like, nope, tomorrow. They're like, we're gonna do that. We're gonna keep putting this dam here. And to me, the fact that these organisms, I mean, they're clearly at much lower levels than they were, 300 years ago in the Western US, but the fact that they're still here and thriving and that we now have the opportunity to support them, to keep doing the good work they do, and it benefits us, frankly, to support them and let them do the work they're doing, that gives me hope. Yeah.
It's like that was the point.
Sorry?
It's like that was the point of nature.
Yes. Yes. So we should just let nature do its thing, and we can be a part of it. Yes.
There was a question in this vicinity.
Do you do any events where you can come to see the beavers and owls?
Oh yeah.
So,
Field trip.
Chatfield is open every day.
Oh.
So you can go to Chatfield Farms every day and see them. They don't really care that you're there, so they just continue to do their thing every day. We also have a
Liz is leading 3 tours this spring. Cool.
yes.
Ooh.
Someone on our team, Liz, has created 3 new tours that we're starting this year. One is about our restoration work, more on the grassland side, which I did not talk about. One is about birds, because Liz is a great birder. And so they have created a bird hike as well. Is there a third one?
I think it's riparian.
Surprisingly, maybe we also have one about 3. But even on your own, the trails are open and you can go walk and you can see the beaver. Like now, okay, during the day when we're open, the beavers are going to be in their den and not out unless like a stupid teenager beaver. They are occasionally out. But like most of the beavers are like, you're never going to see them if you're out during the day because they come out at night. But you'll see all the evidence of them. Like it's like all the trees look like cartoon, like your image of like a cartoon tree being chewed by a beaver. That is what these look like. You'll see them all over the site. You'll see trees caged because we do, as a part of our management, we were like, hey, beavers, stay, welcome. But also like leave some trees for the owls. So we have some trees caged so that they can't eat them. But yeah, welcome. There'll be hikes you can come on, guided hikes, but then also you're welcome just to stroll the property. And this, most recently, the past 2 years, the owls have actually been nesting in a much easier spot, like right above a trail. So you can actually, like soon, probably, we should be able to start seeing them on site too. Yeah.
This was an amazing morning. One thing that I really took from it is I loved how you just related everything on your project and in nature to our lives, and how like here's community being built and here's how we can create community. It was just wonderful. Thank you so much. Who's staying to walk the gardens? Anybody? Awesome. Awesome. This is going to be fun. And who knows what movie this is from? Nice beaver. Naked Gun? Oh, it's just from Naked Gun. Is that bad? Oh.
It was somewhat of a double entendre.
I know, but when else could you say that movie quote?
You can quote movies anytime.
But not about beavers.
I have friendships that are exclusively based on this.
Oh, okay. Well, Everybody, it was so awesome to see all of you, and we look forward to seeing you in March. We look forward to those coming to the What in the Heck Creative Entrepreneur little fun time together. Thank you so much, Dr. Becky. Thank you for having us, Hannah. Do they need any tickets or anything to explore? We just go explore. Awesome. So explore the gardens, enjoy this beautiful day, and we'll see you in March.
Pretty good.